On the 2nd of June at 10:15, two men in a black Honda Jazz were travelling along Bradford Road when they drove by two other men unloading rubbish at Wilmot Road Primary School. The car reversed and the passenger pointed a long-arm firearm out the window towards the men. They took cover, fearing for their lives.
Police are taking the incident very seriously. The victims involved have expressed that they were generally fearful as of the incident, and police will treat it as a high priority.
The car then sped off, turning left on Morrish Road. No shots were fired and police believe it was a random attack. The two offenders are described as Middle Eastern. The passenger, aged between 20 and 30, had a beard and was wearing a brown hat. The two victims were temporary employees at the school. No students or staff were threatened, but they did go into lockdown. Police believe there's no further threat to the community, but they are appealing for information.
It was fitted with 3 mag wheels, pretty distinctive 5-spoke mag wheels. However, it was fitted with a spare wheel on the rear passenger side, which may be distinctive enough that someone's seen it prior to this incident.
Renee Arndt, Win News. Shepparton's cases are slowly creeping up, but GV Health's confident restrictions are stopping the spread.
Particularly in Melbourne is the restrictions that were introduced about 2 weeks ago now are starting to have an effect, and that's exactly the same thing that's happening in regional Victoria.
Local cases have increased by 2, bringing Shepparton's total number to 20, with 2 small clusters causing concern. The hospital's contact tracing teams working 12 hours a day to reach those who could be a risk.
In the case of 2 outbreaks that we're managing at the moment, it can be up to 25, 30 or more people that the team are tracing at any one time.
An average of 105 people are getting tested a day, while pop-up clinics in Marupana and Tatura were last week's focus. That will now turn to specific industries.
Really relates to those higher risk employer groups that have been identified in other outbreaks across the state. So for example, meatworks or food processors.
But there's always room for more screening. The hospital's urging locals to not delay getting tested, even if they have just mild symptoms, amid concerns some people are waiting up to 3 days to get screened when feeling unwell. Renee Arndt, Win News. Superloads of concrete will soon be transported along Longwood Avenel Road 5 times a week.
We've had absolutely no consultation whatsoever. We are very concerned about our roads because they're second grade at best.
The 160-tonne loads will move from Benalla to the Westgate Tunnel project through Longwood and Loxley due to a historic bridge on the highway unable to carry the weight. The state government says most of the loads are going by rail.
There is enormous amount of discussions and conversations and consultations that are happening right now. There's appropriate processes that are being followed that involve the council.
Council says it's asking for a written agreement around maintenance of the infrastructure.
The first time that we were informed about these superloads, they were already amending the turning circles off the Hume Freeway onto our road. So we're really concerned and we'd just like further engagement.
It's believed the superload trips are scheduled to begin by the end of August, but the opposition's calling for a delay in the plan to allow for more consultation with council and residents.
They need to look at all options for bypassing the Pranjip Bridge and see what can be done before they consider bringing it through Longwood and Loxley.
It's really no surprise that they want to see this work continue to be stopped.
Renee Arndt, Win News. As the number of coronavirus cases across Victoria continue to rise, the state government's announced a $437 million boost to relieve pressure on the system and prepare for the peak of the pandemic.
Extra beds open, there'll be more equipment, there'll be additional gloves and masks and gowns, and there will be a number of spaces that will be open for the first time or indeed reopened.
Bendigo Health will also receive more beds to cope with demand.
We will be doing our part with that additional capacity to support the effort for tackling this pandemic across the whole of Victoria.
The money will also go towards purchasing more life-saving equipment while preparing for record numbers of presentations, including thousands more in emergency departments. The number of hospital admissions and ICU patients is also expected to increase over the next 3 months. The healthcare workforce is also getting support with $97 million set aside to backfill workers if staff need to self-isolate during the outbreak.
So we can bring on healthcare workers who might be casual workers, might be working part-time or working in other parts of the health system to be able to come and be deployed.
Renee Arndt, Win News. A scene of utter devastation. A diesel locomotive on its side and 5 carriages derailed. Its driver, a 54-year-old Canberra man, and the train pilot, a 49-year-old Castlemaine man, died at the scene. 153 passengers thrown into chaos.
There was a number of passengers scrambling, trying to get off the train. There was a number of passengers that had already alighted from the train, and there were some that were still on the train.
12 were taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Today, authorities started to investigate what caused the XPT train to come off the tracks near the Hume Freeway at Wallen last night.
The interviewing of witnesses, those on the train, etc., will take place from now on. Things like the speed limit will all be examined.
It comes amid reports V-Line drivers have recently refused to use that part of the line, a claim the federal government, which owns the track, says it knows nothing about.
Well, no authorities would ever let a train go on an unsafe track. I want to make that very, very clear. And of course, engineering scopes and safety inspections are conducted on tracks, whether they're state-run tracks, whether they are ARTC tracks.
All of the northeast lines have been replaced by coaches, and it's unknown how long commuters will be affected, with the crash site remaining an active crime scene and the clean-up to follow.
We will make sure that our services are replaced whilst the recovery of this incident is carried out.
Renee Arndt, Win News.